Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm currently making this video because I don't see a lot of videos circulating around on receiving a Maryland concealed carry license, which is understandable because they do not hand them out a lot. Now, I will be making a couple of separate videos on reciprocity as a Maryland resident, and there's another video on the Ponzi scheme, as I like to call it, of how they are balancing all of these laws to try to restrict as many people from carrying as possible. Now, Maryland, as if you do not know, Maryland is a may issue state, which means that you have to show good and proper cause in order to receive a license. And at that point, you may receive the license, you may not. I will say it is one of the less restrictive states in comparison to New Jersey or maybe New York City, but it is very bad. But I would try to keep this as formal as possible, and I'm just giving you the process. Now, first of all, you're going to need training. Maryland does issue the license to residents and non-residents, but if you are a non-resident, they will ask you why do you want to carry in the state, and if you are not approved, they might even suggest that you just don't come into the state if you need to carry a firearm for protection here. Now, first thing you need is training, as I said, and you'll have to go take a class if you are a Maryland resident, and if you haven't purchased a pistol there, then you will need to take a separate class on receiving your HQL. And it can be done in a 2-day process where the first day you're going to take the training for your HQL. You're going to pay for a certain, you're going to pay to get your fingerprints. You're also going to pay $50 for the Maryland State Police to do a background check. And then you're going to have to wait 30 days for you to get approved. Also, when you are applying for the license, you're going to have to pay for a separate set of fingerprints. You're going to have to pay for that second 8-hour day of course class. And now all applications are being done online. They are not being sent by paper. Also to mention in the state of Maryland is that everything is being put forth on the state level, not through a local municipality, maybe like New Jersey or a few other states. After you've done the training, or before you do it, let's just add a couple of things. Is that when you are going to apply for the Maryland concealed carry, I highly advise Maryland residents to to take a class that gives you a second license, because it's almost like the wheel of fortune, because you will be able to get maybe a Utah permit or the DC permit if you are a law-abiding citizen, if you fall under the right categories, but you may not receive the Maryland permit. So if you go ahead and do that training and you only took a training for the Maryland permit, and then you're paid about $400 or $300 or $500 in total of all the stuff, and you're just standing around with your Johnson in your hand because you haven't been approved, then you're going to be SOL. But at the very least, you can apply for a separate permit that will not cover Maryland. Maryland is not on a reciprocity with any other state, but at least you'll get something out of the training course, which you're going to spend the bulk of the money for. Now, once you take the training, you're going to have to do a live fire. You want to make sure you get as many shots as possible within the bullseye. Also, once you do your online application, for whatever reason you're going to do that, you're giving your good cause for receiving a permit, you must submit supplemental documentation showing that you are doing something that justifies. So if it's for self-defense, you have to have specific threats that are well documented, such as police reports. Generally speaking, Maryland does not give it out to people if you are being stalked or harassed. Something has to happen to you, and even at that, you still may not receive the permit. If you're trying to get it for a business, your business, you have to provide documentation saying that you are giving out a certain amount of you are transporting cash. They're going to ask for a few other things, maybe like articles of incorporation, and certain other things showing that you are, are actively doing things that, in their definition, requires a higher need than the average citizen. And then once you put in all of that documentation, the total wait time of this whole process when you turn in is going to be about maybe 90 business days. That's what my instructor told me, but it was actually a lot shorter for me. It was actually, I was approved for my Maryland permit before the Utah, which is not surprising because a lot less people apply for Maryland. Also, to point this out, is when you receive your fingerprints, they are only good for 30 days. That is also the same for the passport photos. But if you try to turn in those fingerprints after the 30-day limit, they will say you need to take them over again. That is a big, and you'll have to buy, pay for a new set of live scans. Now, also, so to go to the part when you go through the interview, there are a few things that they're going to ask you that may be pertinent to some people because, like I said, it's main issue, so they may deny you for any reason. One of the main things that they asked me is they will go through the whole list of when you apply, so asking, are you a criminal? Are you did straw purchases, all that other stuff, and then she'll ask some stuff off the books, like when was the last time you got into a fight? Now, I am a younger person, so she didn't really have much on me as an older person, but I had a family member who was probably about 40 years older than me. And that person, they was asking certain things like a loan that he received 40 years ago, or somebody made a bad article about him on the 80s. So, and the thing about it is that he's a God honest person. He didn't know anything about it. So to that point, I'm gonna be honest with you, they might try to play mind games with you. Just be prepared. It just depends on the interviewer. The interviewer asked me whether I was married, asked and then asked if I had any ex-wives. Assumed that I had extra wives, 2019 and all, but no, but then she asked if I had a girlfriend, and she called my girlfriend up and interviewed her over the phone, and just to keep that in mind, that the three people that you put down there might not be the only people that they might ask. Then once you complete your interview with the person, most likely it'll probably be in Jessup. It will not be at Reisterstown. And the crazy part is that they might send you across the other side of the state to do the interview. And you do not want to miss that interview, otherwise you might have to start all over again. But you can call to reschedule. After you complete the interview, there's also a main important step that I see a lot of other videos didn't put in there, is that you will receive a confirmation saying that your interview is complete, and that pretty much wraps up everything. You're just waiting for see whether you're approved or denied, and they give you about 30 days to submit the paperwork to the licensing division. If you do not know where the licensing division is, it is 1111 Reisterstown Road in Maryland, and that's where pretty much everything goes to because it's on the state level. And if you do not turn it in within the 30 days, they say that your permit may be denied. So they do not turn that piece of paper in themselves, which is weird. But I will tell you this, is that they did help me out because they did submit it on my behalf because I was in a special situation because I was being deployed around that time. And one thing that did hurt me, because I had to leave, so I got accepted while I was deployed for my permit, is that they will not, you have a certain, if you are approved, you will have a certain amount of days to where you can appeal for that if you do not think that the restrictions are fair on there. If you want to get it unrestricted, in fact, and you can approve to the Handgun Review Board. And the Handgun Review Board is basically civilian oversight on what the police decide to do with your license. So if you're denied, you can appeal to that board as well. Now, the thing about it is that out of that certain time frame, I believe you will have to go to the police after that. And keep in mind, and I meant to put this at the beginning of the video, is that things may change. I am posting this a couple of days after the Supreme Court ruling, not ruling, what they did hearings on the New York case. So the terms of this video might change in a few months. And they are also deciding about taking up a Maryland case on the May issue. I believe it's called the Madrazo case, on whether it is you need to provide documentation or such in order to carry a gun. Like, it's the Bill of Needs, not the Bill of Rights. So it's so confusing to people for some reason, but trying to keep it formal. Is that like I said, once you receive the license, now I will give you a couple of overview tips in the state of Maryland. Is that they do not make any distinction between open carry and concealed carry, but open carry is generally not done here because unless you are a security or a cop, because you run the risk of losing your license. If they gave it to you under their permission, they can take it from you at any point. So just think about that. I will be making a couple of supplemental videos concerning reciprocity and the licensing scheme on how they prevent people from carrying firearms in general, and not just about firearms, because I believe that guns rights activists are attacking this a little bit wrong, as I would say, because there are a lot of other issues, not just even concerning gun rights, that flow along with how they keep a lot of people down and get a lot of people, innocent people, hurt in the state. Because the death toll is pretty high here in Baltimore. It's past 300, and it's got up there probably about a year after they passed there's a little Safety Act back in 2013. So that's pretty much all I have for today. Thank you very much. Have a good one.